Hi guys, welcome back to the Flip Classroom. This is Miss Hanrahan, and today we're going to be talking about customary measures. Yesterday we talked about the metric system. We were talking about how most of the world actually uses the metric system. However, the United States does not. We use a different form of measurement. We describe length in the same way, which is the measurement of something from one end to another. However, we use very different units of length. So instead of using millimeters and centimeters, we use inches, feet, yards, and miles. So all of these things you're probably a little bit more familiar with. 1 inch can be represented by the length of a paper clip or even the width of a quarter. 1 foot is about the size of your binder, slightly smaller than a piece of paper. A yard could be represented by the length of a baseball bat or even a guitar. And 1 mile is about 4 times around the track at McKinley, or the distance from McKinley to the Ashton Apartments or to McDonald's. The units of length conversions are very different than the metric system. In this case, we're not going to be able to multiply by 10 or divide by 100. In fact, most of these don't end with 0. Instead, our conversions from inches to feet are 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. And it's 1,760 yards to equal 1 mile. So again, if we're thinking about those pictures, 12 paper clips is the same size as the length of your binder. It would take 3 binders to be the size of a guitar, and it would be 1,760 guitars would equal the distance from McKinley Elementary School to the Ashton Apartments or McDonald's. As a reminder, conversions are when you change from one unit to another. I know we're not discussing time, however, it's very similar. When you talk about time, you might use seconds or minutes or hours. So you know that 60 seconds and 1 minute are the same thing. You're converting from one unit to another. With length and with weight and with capacity, which we're going to be discussing today, you're doing the same thing, just like you did yesterday. So now that you have written down the units of length and the conversions, let's go ahead and try a problem. 24 inches is how many feet? Well, we're starting with a smaller unit. So inches is a smaller unit than feet. So if we have 24 paper clips, how many feet or binders would that be? So if you remember that there's 12 inches in 1 foot, and any time that you're finding a large unit, you're always going to divide. You should divide 24 divided by 12. Let's go ahead and look at a visual picture of that. So if we have 24 inches here, and we're actually going to separate it, so we know that 12 inches is the same thing as 1 foot. This is the same distance. 12 plus 12 being 24, like we saw above. We know that we need not just 1 foot, but 2 feet to equal the same distance. Again, 12 divided by 24 gives you 2. All right, let's try another one, but this time we're going to find the smaller unit. So we don't know the number of inches, but we do know the number of feet. Feet is larger, so we're looking for that smaller unit. If we have 4 feet, how many inches would that be? We know the conversion is 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. So 4 times 12 gives you 48. All right, here's a couple problems for you guys to try on your own. We start with a smaller unit, feet. We're changing it to a larger unit, yards. Every time you change to a larger unit, you're going to divide. So I want you to look at your conversion chart, figure out what you're going to be dividing by. 60 feet divided by 3 is 20 yards. Now we divide by 3 because we're looking at the conversion between feet and yards. 3 feet is the same as 1 yard. That's why you divide by 3. Here we're moving from a larger unit, miles, to a smaller unit, yards. So whenever you do that, you have to multiply. Look at your conversion. 7,040 yards. All right, again, sometimes you're going to have to do more than one step. So in this case, we're moving from a smaller unit, inches, to a larger unit, yards. However, on our conversion chart, we don't have inches converted into yards. So you need to think, if you have 12 inches, and that makes 1 foot, and there's 3 feet in 1 yard, then we know 24 inches would be 2 feet, 36 inches would be 3 feet. And we also know that 3 feet is the same thing as 1 yard. So 36 inches is the same thing as 1 yard. Taking that information, you're going to divide 180 divided by 36. You get 5 yards. Another way to check your work would be to multiply. 5 times 36 should equal 180. All right, our next unit of measurement is weight, the measurement of the downward force or heaviness of an object. So how heavy or how light an object is. It's very similar to mass like we talked about yesterday. The units of weight that we're going to be discussing for customary measures is ounces, pounds, and a ton. Now I know the abbreviations look kind of funny, but the abbreviation for ounces really is OZ. The abbreviation for pounds is LBS, and the abbreviation for a ton is a capital T. Now 1 ounce would be one of those fun-sized candy bars, or the weight of a key. 1 pound is the size and weight of an iPad or a kitten or a small pumpkin. And a ton, literally a ton of weight, is the same weight as 2 horses put together. Now you have a much simpler conversion chart here. We know that 16 ounces is the same thing as 1 pound. 2,000 pounds is the same thing as 1 ton. So if we have 16 fun-sized candy bars, it's about the same weight as a kitten. And if you have 2,000 kittens, it's about the same weight as 2 horses, or 1 ton. So to find large units, again, you're going to divide. We have 6,000 pounds. We need to know the number of tons. You divide by 2,000, get rid of all those zeros, guys, and you get 3. We start with 8 pounds, and we're looking for the ounces, meaning we're looking for a smaller unit. Every time you do that, you multiply. So 8 times 16, because there's 16 ounces in 1 pound, is 128 ounces. All right, our last unit of measurement is capacity. Capacity is a measure of the amount a container can hold. Typically, we're talking about liquid, although you frequently see units of capacity such as these when you're baking. So that might even include how much sugar you might put into something. We use cups, pints, it looks like pints, but it is pints, quarts, and gallons. So when we talk about cups, we're not talking about these kinds of cups. I agree these are called cups. However, you'll notice that they can all hold a very different amount of liquid. If I take a full small cup, pour it into this larger cup, it might fill to this black line. However, if I take this very large cup and I try to pour it into the small cup, it's obviously going to overflow. So even though I agree these are all called cups, they're not the cups we're talking about today. The cups we're talking about today must be of equal size, which these are. So a cup is about the size of a yogurt or a milk that you might find in the cafeteria. A pint is about the size of a ice cream or a plastic thermos. These containers hold a quart of liquid. So in one case we have the motor oil, and in the next case we have maple syrup. And a gallon can be found in these two types of containers. Typically paint is purchased in a gallon, and you can buy a gallon of water or juice or even milk. So these are our units of capacity. Now, in your textbook, this is what is written down for you. 2 cups equals 1 pint, 2 pints equals 1 quart, 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. However, this little guy right here, this picture, is what you really need to have written down. The reason is because it has the same information. So if we're looking for how many quarts are in a gallon, this G represents a gallon. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 quarts in a gallon. If we're looking for how many pints are in 1 quart, you can see that there's 1, 2 letter P's in the letter Q, or a quart. Now, this also shows other conversions. So for example, we also know that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pints in a gallon. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you draw this picture. So to fill 1 gallon, it would take either 16 cups, 8 pints, or 4 quarts. So let's try a problem. We have 20 gallons, which is a very large unit, and we're trying to find a smaller unit, quarts. 20 times 4 gives you 80 quarts. To find a large unit, you need to divide. If we have 8 quarts, we divide by 4, which is our conversion. It's the same as 2 gallons. All right, and that's it for lesson 2. So make sure that you whisk. You've watched the video, hopefully, if you've gotten to this point. Summarize what you watched. Make sure you take really good notes, including vocabulary and examples if you need to. Make sure you understand all the parts of the video. But if you have questions, make sure you write them down specifically so that we can talk about them tomorrow in class. If you don't have any questions, write down a problem for us to solve in the classroom based on what you just learned. It can be about length or weight or capacity. I'll let you choose. Make sure you have the answer written down as well, though, and I will see you tomorrow.